The silence in the Beverly Hills mansion was absolute at 2:47 in the morning when Yoon Seung-woo heard the first sob. He was in his office, reviewing documents that required his signature, contracts from his complex business dealings, when the faint but unmistakable sound of a woman crying pierced through the mahogany walls. Seung-woo froze, his pen suspended over the paper. In 5 years of living in this fortress, he had never heard such a sound. His house was a place of order, efficiency, impeccable silence. The people who worked for him knew that emotions were private matters, never exposed. But there it was, muffled, desperate crying coming from the second floor, from the servants' quarters, and Seung-woo knew exactly who it was. Naima Toussaint, pronounced Naima, the Haitian maid with sad eyes who had been cleaning his house for 3 months with a silent efficiency he respected. The woman with deep ebony skin, who never looked directly at him, who disappeared like smoke whenever he entered a room. Seung-woo closed the file with a decisive snap. He was many things: powerful businessman, influential leader, someone with a complicated past. But he had never been able to ignore real suffering when it stood before him. He climbed the stairs, his steps silent despite the weight of his decisions, and stopped outside her door. What he did next would change everything. Chapter 1. Naima's bedroom door was thin, cheap, a constant reminder of her place in this house of obscene luxury. She pressed her face into the pillow, trying to muffle the sobs that tore through her throat like shards of glass. She couldn't make noise, couldn't draw attention, couldn't lose this job, but the pain was too great to be contained. "Manman," she whispered into the darkness in Haitian Creole, "I don't know what to do." The diagnosis had come by phone 3 hours earlier. Breast cancer, stage 3, progressing rapidly. Her mother in Port-au-Prince needed immediate treatment, surgery, chemotherapy, things that cost more money than Naima would see in a lifetime of working for minimum wage. She had tried every bank, every lending agency. Her credit score was non-existent. She was an immigrant without complete documentation, without history, without anything except hands willing to work. And now she was failing the only person who mattered. Naima didn't hear the knock on the door. Soft, almost hesitant. Didn't hear the doorknob turn. She only realized she wasn't alone when a deep voice with a marked Korean accent cut through the darkness. "Are you hurt?" She sat up with a start, her heart thundering in panic. Yoon Seung-woo stood in the doorway, illuminated by the dim hallway light. Tall, broad-shouldered, wearing black tailored trousers and a white shirt with the sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing muscular forearms and a dragon tattoo that disappeared beneath the fabric. But it was his face that always stole the breath from her lungs. Angular lines, defined jaw, dark penetrating gaze beneath straight eyebrows. Black hair combed back with precision. A small scar crossed his left eyebrow, the only imperfection in a face that seemed carved from marble. "Mr. Yoon!" Naima stood quickly, wiping her face with the backs of her hands. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to—" "Are you hurt?" he repeated, entering the room without asking permission. His gaze examined her with careful attention. "Did someone harm you?" "No, sir, I just—" Naima searched for words, her Haitian accent making each syllable distinct. "Personal problem. It won't happen again." Seung-woo closed the door behind him, and the tiny room shrank even more. He was too large for this space, too powerful, too commanding. Naima knew who he was, not all the details, but enough. The serious men who visited the house, the conversations in Korean that ceased when she entered, the air of authority he carried like a second skin. "Sit," he ordered, pointing to the bed. "Sir, I shouldn't—" "Sit." It wasn't a request. Naima sat, keeping her gaze down, her hands trembling in her lap. Seung-woo pulled the room's only chair, a cheap plastic piece, and sat before her, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. 3 months, he said thoughtfully. "You've worked for me for 3 months, always punctual, always efficient, never asking for anything, never complaining, never even speaking unless necessary." Naima didn't respond. She didn't know what to say. "So tell me," Seung-woo continued, his voice low and controlled, "what would make a woman like that cry in the middle of the night? It's not your—" Naima stopped, quickly correcting herself. "I'm sorry, sir. It's my problem." "Perhaps." He tilted his head, studying her with that penetrating stare. "But you're crying in my house. That makes it my problem, too. Please, I need this job. Naima said softly, fear finally conquering pride. I can't lose this job. Something changed in Seung-woo's expression, a slight frown, an almost imperceptible tension around his mouth. You think I'm going to fire you for crying? I shouldn't have made noise. Naima. He said her name for the first time, and the way it sounded in his voice, gentle, careful, as if it was something precious, made her chest tighten. Look at me. She obeyed slowly, forcing herself to raise her gaze until they locked with his. The impact was physical. Seung-woo had intense dark eyes, the kind that made people confess secrets they intended to take to the grave. You're not going to lose your job, he said firmly, but I need to know what's happening. If someone threatened you, if you owe money to difficult people, if... It's my mother. The words escaped before Naima could stop them. She's sick, cancer. She needs surgery and I don't have enough money. I have nothing. The silence that followed was absolute. Seung-woo didn't move, didn't blink, just continued observing her with that disturbing intensity. How much? He asked finally. What? How much do you need? Naima shook her head vigorously. No, I can't. How much? $80,000. The amount came out like a painful confession, but I'm not asking, Mr. Yoon, I'm just... You'll have the money tomorrow. Naima blinked, certain she'd misunderstood. Sir, $80,000, transferred wherever your mother needs it. Seung-woo stood and Naima had to tilt her head back to keep looking at him. You'll write down the hospital name and details. My lawyer will take care of the rest. I can't accept... You can and you will. He walked to the door, then stopped, turning partially. It's not charity, Naima. It's a loan. You'll pay it back by working for me. But that would take years. Then you'll work for me for years. Something powerful flashed in his expression. Not threat, but promise. Consider yourself bound to me until the debt is paid, understand? Naima should feel afraid, should refuse, should recognize the trap closing around her, but all she could feel was relief, so intense it hurt. Yes, sir, she murmured. Thank you. Seung-woo nodded once, formal, as if they'd concluded a business negotiation. But when he looked at her one last time before leaving, Naima saw something she couldn't name, hunger perhaps or recognition, as if he'd seen something in her that even she didn't know existed. The door closed with a soft click, and Naima was alone again. But this time, when she lay down on the narrow bed, it wasn't despair that kept her awake. It was the memory of those dark, penetrating eyes watching her, as if she were a puzzle he was determined to solve. In the days that followed, Naima discovered that Yoon Seung-woo was a man of his word. The money was transferred within 48 hours. Her mother called crying, saying the hospital had confirmed full payment, that the surgery was scheduled, that there was hope. Naima cried in the tiny bathroom of the servants' quarters, this time from gratitude. But gratitude brought complications. She began noticing Seung-woo in ways she shouldn't, the way he rolled up his shirt sleeves when working, how his long, elegant fingers leafed through documents, the scar on his eyebrow that she wanted to ask about, but would never dare. And worse, she began to realize he noticed her too. Not obviously. Seung-woo was too discreet for that. But Naima felt the weight of his attention when she cleaned his office, noticed how he found reasons to be in rooms where she worked, saw the way his gaze followed her when she crossed a hallway. It was risky, she knew it. 1 week after that night, Naima was polishing the mahogany bookshelf in Seung-woo's office when she heard raised voices coming from downstairs. Male voices in Korean, tense and aggressive. She froze. The cleaning cloth stopped in mid-air. Boss! Someone's voice. Dong-wook, Seung-woo's second-in-command. This is unacceptable. We need to handle this before... No. Seung-woo's voice cut sharply. Not until we're certain. Certain. The man stole from us 100,000 in product, disappeared. And if we confront the wrong person, we create unnecessary problems. Use your head, Dong-wook. Anger isn't strategy. Naima should leave, should pretend she heard nothing. But her feet wouldn't obey. You're getting soft. Dong-wook's accusation was sharp. Since when does Yoon Seung-woo hesitate? The silence that followed vibrated with tension. When Seung-woo spoke again, his voice was cold and controlled. Watch your words, Dong-wook. Strategic patience isn't weakness. It's intelligence, something you should learn. Footsteps approached the stairs. Naima panicked, looking for somewhere to hide, but it was too late. Seung-woo entered the office and stopped when he saw her there. frozen like a deer under headlights. His gaze narrowed. "How much did you hear?" "Nothing, sir." The lie came out too quickly to be convincing. "I was just—" "Don't lie to me." He closed the door behind him with a deliberate movement, cutting off the rest of the world. "I always know when someone is lying." Naima clutched the cleaning cloth between her fingers, heart pounding. "I don't understand Korean. But you understand tone. You understand tension." Sungwoo crossed the office with measured movements, stopping just a few steps from her. "You understand when something serious is happening. Please, I won't tell anyone." "Of course you won't." He tilted his head, studying her. "Because you have no one to tell, do you? And because you're smart enough to know that discretion is valuable." Naima swallowed hard, but forced herself to keep her gaze steady. "I understand my place, Mr. Yoon." "Do you?" Something fierce flashed in his expression. "And what is your place, Naima?" The way he said her name, low, intimate, almost possessive, made something tighten in her belly. "I work for you," she answered, hating how her voice trembled. "I clean your house, that's all." "Is it?" Shengwu took another step forward, and now he was close enough that she could feel the warmth from his presence, the scent of his expensive cologne. "Because it seems to me that you see much more than dust and furniture when you're in this house. I don't— Do you know what I do, Naima?" He leaned in slightly, and she had to tilt her head back to maintain eye contact. "What my business really involves, she should deny, should feign ignorance." "Yes," she breathed. Shungwoo nodded slowly, as if she'd passed some test. "And does that frighten you?" "Should it?" The question came out before Naima could stop it, brave, almost defiant. Shungwoo's expression shifted, genuine surprise crossing his features before being replaced by something more intense. "Yes," he said simply, "it should concern you." "But it doesn't." Naima didn't know where this courage came from, this risky honesty. "Because the man I know isn't the man they talk about downstairs. The man I know heard someone crying and came to check. Saved my mother's life without asking for anything in return. I did ask for something." Shungwoo's voice was rough. "I asked for you. Years of you. Bound to me. To pay a debt. Is that why?" He raised his hand slowly, telegraphing each movement as if she were a frightened animal that might flee. His fingers brushed her cheek, just a whisper of touch. "Or because I wanted a guarantee that you wouldn't disappear from my life." The air left Naima's lungs. "Sir, Seung-woo," his thumb traced the line of her jaw. "When we're alone, you can call me Seung-woo." "I can't." But she didn't pull away. Couldn't. "It's not appropriate. Nothing about this is appropriate." He let his hand fall but didn't step back. "I'm your employer. You owe me $80,000. I'm a man with a complicated past who lives in a world that can be harsh. Then why—" "Because I hear you singing in Creole when you think you're alone. Because you leave wildflowers in vases around the house, even knowing I never asked. Because 3 months ago you walked into this house and somehow became the only real thing in it." Naima closed her eyes briefly, her heart in turmoil. "This is madness. It is. It can't work." "I know." "Then why are you telling me this?" When she opened her eyes, she found Shungwoo watching her, with the expression of a man who had just realized he'd made a fatal mistake. "Because," he said softly, "I've never been good at denying the truth." Before Naima could respond, Seung-woo's phone vibrated urgently. He stepped back, checking the screen, and all vulnerability vanished from his face as if it had never existed. "I have to go." His voice was back to professional, controlled. "Finish here, and take the rest of the night off." He was at the door when Naima found her voice. "Seung-woo." He froze, not turning. "I see you too," she said quietly. "More than I should." His shoulders tensed for a long moment. Then he left without a word, leaving Naima alone in his office, surrounded by the scent of expensive books and the weight of confessions that couldn't be undone. Chapter 2. The next days were refined torture. Seung-woo became a ghost in his own house, always absent when Naima was working, leaving before dawn and returning after midnight. She knew because she heard the front door open, heard his footsteps climbing the stairs, heard the shower in his room, and hated how much attention she paid. She hated even more the emptiness she felt in his absence. "You're distracted." Mrs. Han's voice, the 50-year-old Korean cook, who had worked in the house for a decade, cut through Naima's thoughts. She was chopping vegetables for dinner that Seung-woo probably wouldn't eat. "I think maybe you're sick." "I'm fine," Naima lied, focusing on the floorboard she was scrubbing. Mrs. Han didn't sound convinced. "The boss is also different, more tense, more withdrawn. The men who come here, they say he's... how do they say? Troubled." Naima kept her gaze down, but her pulse accelerated. "It's none of my business." "No, it isn't." Mrs. Han picked up a carrot, peeling it efficiently. "But I'll tell you something anyway, because you're a good girl and you deserve a warning. Yoon Sung-woo is not a man for ordinary love." "I don't..." "Listen." The older woman moved closer, lowering her voice. "I've worked for him 10 years. I've seen many women try. Beautiful women, rich, powerful. He never looked at them the way he looks at you." Naima felt heat rising up her neck. "Mrs. Han, and that," the cook continued firmly, "is very risky. For you, yes, but mostly for him. Men like Yoon Sung-woo, they can't show vulnerability. Vulnerability creates problems. And love?" She shook her head sadly. "Love is the most complicated thing of all. There's nothing between..." The sound of the front door opening cut off the lie. Firm footsteps crossed the hall, heavier than normal. Male voices in Korean, tense and urgent. Mrs. Han muttered something under her breath. "Trouble. Go back to your room, Naima, now." But it was too late. Sung-woo entered the kitchen, and Naima's breath caught. His shirt was disheveled and torn at the collar. His knuckles were bruised. A cut crossed his cheek, still fresh. "Leave," he ordered, but his gaze was fixed on Naima. Mrs. Han didn't hesitate, disappearing through the back door. But Naima stayed frozen, the cleaning cloth falling from her hands. "You're hurt," she said softly. "It's nothing serious." Seung-woo walked to the sink, turning on the faucet and washing his hands with mechanical movements. "You should be in your room." "What happened?" "Nothing that concerns you. You're injured, Naima." He turned off the faucet and faced her, and the intensity in his stare made her step back. "Go to your room." "No." The word came out before she could stop it. Seung-woo blinked, genuinely surprised. "What?" "I said no." Naima forced her legs to move, approaching him with slightly trembling hands. "You avoided me for 4 days. Now you come back hurt and want me to just leave?" "No." "You don't understand." "Then explain it to me." She stopped in front of him, raising her chin defiantly even though her heart was racing. "Or tell me to leave for real. Look into my face and tell me you want me to go." The silence stretched between them, electric and tense. Seung-woo's gaze traveled over her face as if memorizing every detail. "I can't," he admitted finally, voice hoarse. "I tried. For 4 days, I tried to keep my distance, tried to convince myself this was just physical attraction, something that would pass." "And did it?" A bitter laugh escaped him. "It got worse. Every day without seeing you, without hearing your voice, without watching you move through this house like you belong here more than I do, it got worse." "Seung-woo." "There was a difficult situation tonight." He spoke quickly, as if the words were being torn from him. "A betrayal. Someone I trusted. It required handling. And all I could think about while dealing with it was that I wanted to come home. Not to this house, to you." Naima's breath caught. "You can't say things like that." "Why not? It's the truth." He raised his hand to touch her face, then stopped himself, fist clenching at his side. "Do you know what I thought when I saw you standing there, looking at me like you actually care if I'm hurt? I thought, this is how everything changes. Not from violence, from wanting something I can't have. Who says you can't have it? Reality, common sense, the fact that I'm disheveled and you should be keeping your distance, not standing here like you want to." He stopped abruptly, jaw clenching. "Like I want to what?" Naima stepped closer, close enough to see the gold flecks in his dark irises. "Say it. Like you want to touch me." His voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "Like you want me to touch you back." Her heart was thunder in her chest. "What if I do?" Seung-woo closed his eyes briefly, his whole body tensing. "Then we're both fools." "Maybe." Naima raised her hand slowly, giving him time to stop her, and gently touched the cut on his cheek. He flinched but didn't pull away. "Let me clean this." "Naima, please." It was the softness in her voice that broke him. Seung-woo nodded once, silent permission, and let her guide him to sit at the kitchen table. She gathered supplies, warm water, clean cloth, antiseptic, and returned to find him watching her with an expression that made her hands shake. "This will sting," she warned, dampening the cloth. "I've had worse." She began cleaning the cut with gentle touches, aware of how close they were, how his breath ghosted across her wrist, how his gaze never left her face. "Where did you learn to do this?" he asked quietly. "My mother was a nurse before she got sick. She taught me." Naima rinsed the cloth. She used to say that knowing how to heal was just as important as knowing how to be strong. Wise woman, she is. Naima applied antiseptic, and Xiong Wu didn't even flinch. She asked about you, in her last call. Wanted to know about the man who saved her life. What did you tell her? That I don't really know you. She met his stare. But I want to. Xiong Wu was quiet for a long moment. Then, my father built this organization from nothing. Started with very little in Seoul, worked his way up through determination and strategy. He taught me that power is the only thing that matters. That vulnerability gets you hurt. That love is a luxury men like us can't afford. Do you believe that? I did. His hand came up to catch hers, still holding the cloth against his cheek. Until you. I'm not special, Xiong Wu, I'm just... You're everything. The words were raw, honest. You walk through this house full of expensive things I don't care about, and you see the one cheap vase of wildflowers you put on a table and smile. You sing while you work, these sad, beautiful songs in a language I don't understand. You treat Mrs. Han with the same respect you'd give a queen. You look at me like I'm a man, not a title. Because you are a man. I'm both. He stood, still holding her hand, towering over her. And the complicated part? It's not going away. My life carries risk, Naima. The people around me, they don't hesitate to use pressure points. And if they found out about you, then we'll be careful. Careful, a bitter laugh. There's no careful in this world. There's only secret or target, and even secrets don't last forever. Then what are you saying? Naima pulled her hand free, sudden frustration flaring. That we should pretend this doesn't exist? That we should go back to you being the boss and me being the maid who cleans your house and owes you money? That would be smarter. I don't want smart. The words burst out of her, surprising them both. I want real, and this, whatever this is between us, it's the realest thing I've felt since I came to this country. Xiong Wu stared at her, something breaking behind his expression. You make it sound so simple. Maybe it is. Maybe we're the ones making it complicated. Or maybe, he said gently, reaching out to cup her face with both hands. You're braver than I am. Before Naima could respond, he kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It was hunger and longing. 4 days of denial crashing through whatever walls they'd both built. Naima gasped against his mouth, and Xiong Wu deepened the kiss until she couldn't remember why this was a bad idea. Her hands fisted in his shirt, the disheveled one, and pulled him closer. He made a sound low in his throat, one arm wrapping around her waist to lift her onto the kitchen counter. The height put them level, and Naima wrapped her legs around his waist on pure instinct. God, Xiong Wu breathed against her lips. I've wanted to do this since the first time I saw you. 3 months, Naima murmured back. You made me wait 3 months. I was trying to be honorable. Don't be. She kissed him again, pouring everything she felt into it, gratitude and desire, and something deeper she wasn't ready to name. Not with me. Xiong Wu pulled back just enough to look at her, his thumb tracing her lower lip. You understand what this means? If we do this, if we cross this line, I'm already bound to you for years. What's a little more binding? He laughed, actually laughed, the sound transforming his face into something younger, lighter. You're going to destroy me, Naima Toussaint. Good, she said, and kissed him again. They might have stayed like that forever, wrapped in each other. If Mrs. Han hadn't cleared her throat loudly from the doorway. If you two are finished, she said in heavily accented English, deliberately not looking at them, I need my kitchen back. And boss, you have a meeting in 20 minutes. Xiong Wu said something sharp in Korean, gently setting Naima back on her feet. His hair was mussed from her fingers, his lips swollen, and the sight made her stomach flip. Tonight, he said quietly, just for her. After the meeting, come to my room. Xiong Wu, Please." The single word held so much weight. "I need to know this is real. That tomorrow, you won't regret this." Naima touched his face, the cleaned cut already beginning to heal. "I'll be there." He nodded, pressing a quick kiss to her forehead, then left with the controlled stride of a man heading into important business. Mrs. Han waited until his footsteps faded before turning to Naima with knowing eyes. "I warned you," she said, but there was no judgment in her voice. "This will not be easy." "Nothing worth having ever is," Naima replied, touching her lips where the memory of his kiss still burned. Mrs. Han smiled sadly. "No, I suppose not." Chapter 3. At midnight exactly, Naima climbed the stairs to the third floor, the master suite she cleaned weekly, but had never entered while Xiang Wu was there. She knocked softly. "Come in." Naima opened the door and stopped breathing. The room was huge, minimalist, all dark wood and floor-to-ceiling windows, overlooking the Los Angeles lights. But she barely noticed the decor. Xiang Wu stood by the window wearing only black pants, his chest bare and revealing the full extent of his tattoos, a dragon that wrapped around his torso, Korean characters down his side, other symbols she didn't recognize. He turned when she entered, and the expression on his face, wonder mixed with hunger, made her feel powerful and vulnerable at once. "You came," he said simply. "You asked me to. I wasn't sure you would." He crossed to her slowly, each step deliberate. "I thought maybe you'd come to your senses." "Maybe I came to my senses by coming here." Xiang Wu stopped in front of her, hands flexing at his sides, as if he wanted to touch but was restraining himself. "Naima, before this goes any further, you need to understand something." "What?" "I'm not a perfect man." His voice was raw. "I've made choices that would make you question me if you knew. I will make more difficult choices. This life I lead, it's complicated, and you deserve—" Naima put her finger against his lips, silencing him. "Let me decide what I deserve. But you saved my mother's life. You heard me crying and you came. You've never treated me as less than, even though I'm your employee. You kiss me like I'm air and you're drowning." She stepped closer. "Maybe you're not perfect in your world, but you've been nothing but good to me. Naima, I don't need a hero, Xiang Wu. I just need you, however you come." Something broke in his expression. He pulled her to him with such sudden intensity that she gasped, his mouth claiming hers in a kiss that was different from the one in the kitchen, deeper, more intentional, full of unspoken promise. Naima melted into him, her hands exploring the warm skin of his back, tracing the lines of his tattoos. Xiang Wu made a sound against her mouth, lifting her easily, and she wrapped her legs around his waist as he carried her to the massive bed. He laid her down with surprising gentleness, then pulled back to look at her. Dress spread around her, hair fanned across his dark pillows, eyes bright with anticipation. "Beautiful," he murmured, almost reverent. "So beautiful it hurts to look at you." "Then don't just look." His smile was pure warmth. "Bossy. You like it. I love it." He settled beside her, caging her gently with his arms. "I love your voice, your strength, the way you look at me like I'm worth something. I love that you're here, in my bed, choosing me despite every reason not to. Xiang Wu, I love you." The words hung in the air between them, shocking and perfect. Naima's eyes filled with tears. "You can't, we've only—" "I know." He kissed her softly, tenderly. "I know it's too fast. I know it seems crazy, but it's true. I've known since the night I heard you crying, this feeling, it's not going away." "I love you too," she breathed, the admission feeling like jumping off a cliff. "I love you, and it terrifies me." "Good." His smile was fierce. "Let's be terrified together." What followed was tender and meaningful. They gave themselves to each other completely, and when they finally came together, it felt less like a beginning and more like a homecoming. Afterward, they lay tangled in his expensive sheets, her head on his chest, his fingers tracing idle patterns on her bare shoulder. "Tell me about Haiti," he said quietly, "about your life before here." So Naima did. She told him about Port-au-Prince, about her mother's small house with the garden full of hibiscus, about the music always floating through streets, about the community that raised her. She told him about the earthquake that destroyed everything, about the decision to come to America, about the years of barely surviving until she found this job. In turn, Xiang Wu told her about Seoul, about growing up in the shadow of his father's empire, about learning responsibility before he learned to relax. He told her about the weight of expectation, the difficult situations he'd witnessed, the first time he'd had to make an impossible choice, and how it changed him forever. "I was 17, he said, staring at the ceiling. "Someone was threatening my father. I had to act, and that scared me more than the situation itself. How quickly I could make such a serious decision. You were protecting your family." I've told myself that for years, but the truth is, I liked having control, the power to fix things. It took me a long time to understand that power doesn't make everything right. Naima pressed a kiss to his chest, right over his heart. "You're more than the worst thing you've ever done." "How do you know?" "Because the worst thing you've done was probably to protect someone you love. And the best thing," she looked up at him, "was listening to a stranger cry and deciding to help." Xiongwu pulled her tighter against him. "I don't deserve you. Then spend the rest of your life earning me." He laughed, the sound rumbling through his chest. "Is that an order, Miss Toussaint?" "It's a promise, Mr. Yoon." They fell asleep like that, wrapped around each other, and for the first time in years, Xiongwu slept peacefully. The next morning, Naima woke to an empty bed and a note on the pillow. "Had to handle something, don't work today. Explore the house like you own it, because in all the ways that matter, you do. Back tonight, wait for me." She smiled, pressing the note to her chest, then spent the day doing exactly what he'd suggested. She walked through the mansion with new perspective, no longer cleaning but simply existing in the space. She played piano in the music room, swam in the pool, read in the library. Mrs. Han found her there in the afternoon, curled up in an oversized chair with a book. "You look happy," the cook observed. "I am." Naima closed the book. "Is that wrong?" "No, but it is risky." Mrs. Han sat across from her. "I need to tell you something, not to scare you, but to prepare you." Naima's stomach tightened. "What?" "There's a woman, Miran. She used to work closely with Boss. More than just business, maybe, I'm not sure. She's been gone 2 years working in Seoul, but I heard she's coming back to Los Angeles next week. And she will not be happy to find you in Boss's life. Miran is complicated, ambitious, intense in her own way. She always thought she would be the one to stand beside Boss. Xiongwu never mentioned her. Because to him she's part of business, nothing more. But to her," Mrs. Han shook her head, "just be prepared. This life with Boss, it will have challenges. Miran is just the first." Naima thought about this as she dressed for dinner, choosing another simple dress, wondering what Xiongwu would think of her in it. She found out when he walked through the door at 8, stopped dead at the sight of her, and smiled that rare, beautiful smile that transformed his entire face. "Perfect," he said, crossing to kiss her. "You're perfect." They ate dinner together, a first. Xiongwu dismissed Mrs. Han early, and they sat across from each other at the massive dining table, talking about everything and nothing. He told her about his meeting, carefully vague on details, and she told him about her day exploring his house. "Our house," he corrected. "I told you. What's mine is yours." "Xiongwu, I can't." "You can, and you will." He reached across the table to take her hand. "Naima, I need to ask you something." Her heart skipped. "What?" "Move out of the servants' quarters. Move into my room. Not as my maid, as my partner, my equal." "But what about your debt?" He waved it away. "Consider it forgiven. You don't work for me anymore. You're with me." Naima stared at him, overwhelmed. "That's $80,000. I don't care about the money. I care about you, about us." His grip on her hand tightened. "I know it's fast. I know we should probably take this slower. But I've spent my whole life being patient, strategic, careful, and then you came into my life and I realized I don't want to wait. Not for the things that matter. What if your people don't accept me? Then they're not my people." His voice was steel. "Naima, I'm not asking you to enter my world. I'm asking if I can enter yours. If we can build something new together, something that's ours alone." Tears spilled down her cheeks. "Yes. Yes, of course, yes." Xiongwu stood, pulling her into his arms, and kissed her like she was oxygen itself. "Thank you," he breathed against her lips. "Thank you for taking a chance on a complicated man. You're not broken. You're just healing. Then heal with me." And she did. Chapter 4. The next month was bliss, the kind that made Naima nervous because she knew it couldn't last. She moved into Seung-woo's room, her few possessions looking tiny in his massive space. He insisted on buying her new clothes, furniture, anything she wanted. She refused most of it, but accepted a few pieces, a comfortable reading chair, a small desk, pictures of her mother. They fell into a rhythm. Seung-woo still handled business during the day, but he was home every evening, and they'd have dinner together, talk for hours, make love until dawn. He taught her Korean words, she taught him Creole. He told her about his childhood, she shared stories of Haiti. Mrs. Han watched them with a mixture of happiness and worry. Byung-hun, Seung-woo's most loyal associate, treated Naima with careful respect. Even Dong-wook, who'd been openly skeptical, grudgingly accepted her presence, but the bubble had to burst eventually. It happened on a Wednesday evening. Naima was in the kitchen with Mrs. Han, learning to make kimchi, when the front door opened and an unfamiliar voice called out in Korean. A woman's voice, sharp, confident, beautiful. Mrs. Han's face went pale. Miran. Naima turned as a stunning Korean woman entered the kitchen. She was tall, elegant, dressed in a designer suit that probably cost more than Naima made in a year. Her gaze swept over Naima dismissively before landing on Mrs. Han. "Where's Seung-woo?" she demanded in Korean, then switched to perfect English. "I tried calling, but he didn't answer." "He's in meeting," Mrs. Han said carefully. "Should be back soon." Miran's gaze returned to Naima, really seeing her this time. "And who is this?" "I'm Naima." She extended her hand, trying to be gracious. "I'm the new maid." Miran's smile didn't reach her eyes. She didn't take Naima's hand. "How quaint that Seung-woo has you making kimchi. Very hands-on training." "Actually," Mrs. Han started, but Naima cut her off. "I'm not the maid, I'm Seung-woo's partner." The temperature in the room dropped 20 degrees. Miran laughed, a cold, brittle sound. "Excuse me? You heard me? Oh, this is rich." Miran pulled out her phone, texting rapidly. "Seung-woo has a girlfriend. How very domestic. Tell me, honey, how long have you been together?" "A month." "2? That's none of your business. Everything about Seung-woo is my business." Miran's smile turned sharp. "We've been partners for 5 years, built this empire together. You think a pretty face and a sob story are going to change that?" "I think," Naima said, forcing her voice to stay level, "that you should wait for Seung-woo and talk to him directly." "Oh, I will." Miran leaned against the counter, making herself comfortable. "This should be entertaining." The next 20 minutes were the longest of Naima's life. Miran peppered her with questions disguised as conversation: where she was from, how she met Seung-woo, what she thought she could offer a man like him. Each question was a trap, and Naima navigated them as carefully as she could. When Seung-woo finally walked in, his expression went from neutral to ice in a heartbeat. "Miran, I didn't know you were coming." Surprise. She moved toward him, arms open for an embrace he didn't return. Her smile faltered. "I thought you'd be happy to see me." "I would have been if you'd called first." He found Naima across the kitchen, his expression softening instantly. "I see you've met Naima. Your maid, yes." "My partner," he corrected, crossing to Naima and pulling her against his side. The gesture was possessive, protective, and completely clear. "Naima, this is Miran, a business associate." Miran's composure cracked. "Business associate? Seung-woo, we've been colleagues. That's all." His voice was firm. "If you thought otherwise, I apologize for the miscommunication, but I never gave you reason to think. You kissed me. 3 years ago at the charity gala, you—" "I was drunk. It was a mistake. I told you that the next day." Naima could feel the tension vibrating through Seung-woo's body. She squeezed his hand, trying to offer support. Miran's eyes filled with angry tears. "So what? You're throwing away years of partnership for some random girl you barely know?" "Watch your tone," Seung-woo said, his voice dropping to something cold. "And Naima is not some random girl. She's the woman I love." The silence that followed was deafening. "You love her?" Miran's laugh was borderline hysterical. "You've known her what, a few weeks? And you love her? What happened to love is weakness, Seung-woo? What happened to focus on the business?" "I was wrong." He pulled Naima closer. "About a lot of things, including letting you believe you had a future with me. That was unfair, and I apologize, but it doesn't change the present." "This is insane. It's my choice." Seungwoo's voice brooked no argument. And it's final. You're welcome to continue our business relationship, Miran. But if you can't respect Naima, can't accept her place in my life, then we have nothing further to discuss. Miran stared at him for a long moment, emotions warring across her face. Hurt, anger, disbelief. Finally, she straightened her spine and smiled coldly. Fine. Have your little romance. But don't come crying to me when it falls apart, and it will, girls like her. She sneered at Naima. They don't last in our world. She left in a whirl of expensive perfume and wounded pride. Mrs. Han excused herself quietly, leaving Naima and Seungwoo alone in the kitchen. I'm sorry, he said immediately, turning her to face him. I should have warned you she was back, should have handled that better. You handled it fine. Naima tried to smile. She's not wrong, though. About what? About me not lasting in your world. I don't know anything about your business, your culture, the expectations. Stop. Seungwoo cupped her face in his hands. You don't need to fit into my world. We're making a new one. One where who you are is enough. More than enough. But what if she's right? What if I can't? Then we'll figure it out together. He kissed her softly. Naima, I meant what I said in there. I love you. Not despite who you are, but because of it. You've made me remember what it feels like to be human, to want something beyond power and control. I love you too. She leaned into him. I'm just scared. Good. I'm terrified. His smile was crooked. Let's be terrified and brave at the same time. But that night, lying in bed after Seungwoo fell asleep, Naima couldn't shake Miran's words. Girls like her don't last in our world. What if she was right? The answer came 3 weeks later. It started small, whispers among Seungwoo's associates when Naima walked by, meetings that ran late, leaving her alone in the big house, phone calls in Korean that he took in another room. Then things escalated. Someone left a threatening note on the front porch. Mrs. Han translated, face pale. Get rid of the outsider, or there will be consequences. Seungwoo was furious, immediately increasing security, but Naima felt the walls closing in. A week later, someone tried to grab her while she was grocery shopping. Byung-hun intervened, but the message was clear. Naima was a target. This is what I was afraid of, Seungwoo said that night, pacing his office restlessly. They're using you to get to me. Who's they? Wong, a rival businessman who's been pushing into our territory. He knows... He stopped, jaw clenching. He knows you matter to me. The realization hit Naima hard. I'm your vulnerability. That's not what I meant, but it's what I am, isn't it? Mrs. Han said it. Miran said it. Even you're saying it now. She stood, hands shaking. I'm your weakness, your liability. Naima, maybe this was a mistake. The words tasted like ash. Maybe we moved too fast. Maybe... Don't. Seungwoo crossed to her in 2 strides. Don't you dare finish that sentence. But if I'm putting you in danger, you're not. They are. And I'll handle it. How? By escalating the conflict? By putting more people at risk? Naima pulled away from him. I can't be the reason for that. You're not the reason. Their greed is, their desire for power. Don't take their sins on yourself. But listen to me. He caught her shoulders, forcing her to look at him. Yes, loving you creates complications. Yes, it gives rivals a target. But you know what it also does? It makes me stronger. Because now I have something worth protecting. Something worth building a life for. That's not logical. Love isn't logical. His voice rose, then softened. Love isn't logical, Naima. It just is. And I'd rather face difficulties with you than be safe and alone. Naima felt tears spill over. What if something happens to you because of me? Then we'll deal with it. He pulled her into his arms. Don't leave me, please. We'll figure this out. I'll keep you safe. Shh. She pressed her fingers to his lips. I'm not leaving. I'm just scared. I know, me too. He kissed her forehead. But we're brave together, remember? She nodded against his chest, trying to believe it, but 3 days later, everything fell apart. Naima was in the garden when she heard Mrs. Han calling for help. She ran inside to find the older woman on the floor, clearly distressed. 2 men in dark clothes stood nearby. Where's Yoon? one demanded in heavily accented English. I don't know. Before Naima could react, someone grabbed her from behind. A cloth covered her face and the world started spinning. Tell Yoon, she heard through the haze. We have his woman. He has 24 hours to meet our demands. Everything went dark. Chapter 5. Naima woke to darkness and the feeling of restraints on her wrists. She was in a basement. Concrete walls, minimal light. No windows. Her head ached and her mouth was dry. Awake. A man stepped into her view. Asian, middle-aged, expensive suit. Good. Now we wait. For what? Her voice came out hoarse. For your boyfriend to choose, his business or your safety. He smiled coldly. What do you think he'll pick? Naima didn't answer. Couldn't, because that was the question that had haunted her from the beginning, wasn't it? When it came down to it, would Seung-woo choose her? Hours passed. The man, Wong, she gathered from conversations happening nearby, seemed confident Seung-woo would comply with his demands. He's gone soft, Wong told his associates in English, clearly wanting Naima to hear, the great Yoon Seung-woo, brought down by romance. It's almost sad. But Naima knew better. Seung-woo wasn't soft. He was strategic. Whatever he was planning, it would be decisive. She just hoped she'd survive it. 23 hours into her captivity, the lights flickered. Shouting erupted from above, the sound of chaos. Then, silence. The basement door opened, and Seung-woo appeared, backlit by dim light from above. His expression when he found her was desperate, utterly undone. Naima. He was across the room in seconds, cutting her bonds, pulling her into his arms with such force she gasped. God, I thought I was too late. You're here. She clung to him, shaking. You came. Of course I came. Did you think I wouldn't? He pulled back just enough to check her for injuries, his hands gentle despite their trembling. Did they hurt you? I'm okay, but Mrs. Han, she's safe, in the hospital. She'll recover. He stood, pulling her up with him. We need to go. Now. They made it halfway up the stairs before Wong appeared at the top looking furious. So predictable, he sneered. I knew you'd come. Seung-woo pushed Naima behind him. Let her go, Wong. This is between us. Is it? Because from where I'm standing, she's the only reason you're here. Wong's smile was vicious. Tell me, Yoon, is she worth your empire? Yes. The single word, said without hesitation, made Naima's breath catch. Wong laughed. Then you're weaker than I thought. No. Seung-woo's voice was calm, controlled. I'm stronger, because now I have something you'll never understand, something worth everything. Everything happened quickly then. Byung-hun appeared behind Wong. Dong-wook and 3 other men emerged from the shadows, surrounding Wong's people. It's over, Byung-hun said firmly. Wong's face contorted with rage, but he was outnumbered and outmaneuvered. You think this is over? He spat. You think... I think, Seung-woo interrupted, that you made a serious mistake, and now you'll face the consequences. What happened next, Naima didn't fully see. Seung-woo pulled her out of the building, into the night, into a waiting car. Only when they were safely away did she realize she was shaking uncontrollably. It's okay, Seung-woo murmured, pulling her onto his lap. You're safe. I've got you. What about Wong? Being handled by the authorities. He won't trouble us again. His arms tightened around her. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I should have protected you better. Should have anticipated. Stop! Naima cupped his face, forcing him to look at her. This wasn't your fault. You were taken because of me, scared because of me, and saved because of you. She kissed him softly. You chose me, Seung-woo. When it mattered, you chose me. I'll always choose you. His voice broke. Always. I don't care about the business, the money, any of it. If having you means giving everything else up, I'll do it. You don't have to. Yes, I do, because I realized something while you were gone. My father was wrong. Love isn't weakness. Fear of love is weakness. Being afraid to protect what matters most, that's weakness. Naima felt tears streaming down her face. I love you. I love you. He kissed her desperately. Marry me. She pulled back, certain she'd misheard. What? Marry me, not someday soon as possible. His gaze was fierce. "I want the whole world to know you're mine and I'm yours. I want legal rights to protect you, social standing to shield you. I want—" "Yes," he blinked. "Yes, yes, I'll marry you, you impossible man." She laughed through her tears. "Did you think I'd say no? I thought you might want time to think about—" She kissed him silent. "I've had nothing but time to think about us, and every thought leads to the same place. You. Always you." Xiongwu held her like she might disappear, and they stayed like that the whole ride home, tangled together, anchoring each other. The next days were carefully managed. Wang's organization was turned over to authorities. Xiongwu moved quickly to resolve outstanding issues, eliminate threats through legal means, and send a clear message. Naima was protected. Anyone who threatened her would face serious consequences. Mrs. Han recovered and returned home with strict orders to take it easy. She cried when Xiongwu told her about the engagement. "Finally," she said, hugging Naima, "finally, that boy has sense." They got married 6 weeks later, a small ceremony with only the people who mattered. Naima wore a simple white dress. Xiongwu wore a traditional Korean suit. Father Jean-Baptiste, who'd flown in from Haiti, performed the ceremony in a beautiful mixture of Creole, Korean, and English. When they exchanged vows, Xiongwu's hands shook. "I, Yoon Seung-woo, take you, Naima Toussaint, to be my wife. I promise to love you fiercely and protect you always. I promise to choose you every single day, in every single way. I promise that you will never again be alone in your pain. I promise that when you cry at midnight I will be there. And I promise that loving you will be the best thing I ever do." Naima could barely get her vows out through her tears. "I, Naima Toussaint, take you, Yoon Seung-woo, to be my husband. I promise to see you as you truly are, not the shadows you fear, but the man you're becoming. I promise to be your home in a world that demands you be strong. I promise to love you not despite your past, but including it. And I promise that you will never again have to carry your burdens alone." When Father Jean-Baptiste pronounced them married, Xiongwu kissed her like she was salvation itself. The reception was held at the house that was now truly theirs. Mrs. Han had outdone herself with food, mixing Korean and Haitian dishes in a fusion that represented their new life. Byung-hun gave an emotional toast about how he'd never seen his boss happy until Naima. Even Dong-wook admitted that maybe love wasn't such a bad thing after all. But the best moment came late in the evening, when Naima found Xiongwu standing alone on the terrace, looking out over the city lights. "Hiding from your own wedding," she teased, slipping her arms around him from behind. "Just taking a moment." He covered her hands with his. "Trying to remember what my life was like before you. And? Empty." He turned to face her. "So empty that I didn't even realize it until you filled it. Poetic." "True." He kissed her forehead. "Thank you." "For what?" "For crying that night. For letting me hear you. For giving me a reason to walk up those stairs and knock on your door." His smile was soft. "For changing my house into a home." "Our home," she corrected, echoing his words from weeks ago. "Our home," he agreed, "our life, our future." They stood there together, watching the city where they'd found each other. And Naima thought about how strange life was. 4 months ago, she'd been desperate and alone, crying in a room with thin walls. Now she was married to a man who'd literally changed everything to save her. "What are you thinking?" Xiongwu asked. That midnight tears led to morning joy. He pulled her closer. "They did, didn't they? What happens now?" Naima asked. "What does our life look like? Anything we want." His gaze held promises and possibilities. "I'm transitioning all of my operations, making them completely legitimate. It'll take time, but I want to build something we can be proud of, something our children won't have to hide." "Children?" Her heart skipped. "Someday if you want them." He looked suddenly uncertain. "Do you?" "Yes." She laughed at his relieved expression. "Yes, I want everything with you. The whole messy, complicated, beautiful life." "Good." He kissed her deeply. "Because I'm planning on giving you at least 60 years of it." "Only 60? Fine. 80, 90, however long we get." They danced there on the terrace, no music except the rhythm of their hearts, no witnesses except the stars, no thoughts except for each other. And when they finally went inside, when they climbed the stairs to their shared room, when they loved each other with the certainty of forever, Naima thought about that night when Xiongwu had heard her crying, Thank God he'd knocked on that door. Thank God he'd asked how much she needed. Thank God he'd chosen to save not just her mother, but her soul. And thank God, or fate or the universe or sheer luck, that midnight tears had led them both home. Epilogue: 1 year later, the renovation of the East Wing was finally complete. What had once been empty rooms gathering dust was now a bright, airy space filled with light and purpose. "This is perfect," so Claudette Toussaint said in Creole, tears in her eyes as she looked around the medical grade, but homey sweet Seung-woo had designed for her. "But it's too much." "It's not nearly enough," Seung-woo replied, in halting but improving Creole, making Naima's mother laugh. Family should be close. Claudette had arrived from Haiti 2 days ago, declared cancer-free and ready to start a new life with her daughter. The suite wasn't just for her. It was the beginning of Seung-woo and Naima's dream to create a place where people could heal, could start over, could find family. "You've made my daughter so happy," Claudette said to Seung-woo, touching his face with maternal affection. "Thank you for hearing her that night." "Thank you for raising someone worth hearing," he replied. Naima watched from the doorway, her hand resting on her still flat stomach, keeping their secret just a little while longer. They'd tell everyone soon about the baby due in 7 months, about the joy and anticipation of bringing new life into their world. But for now, she just watched her husband charming her mother, speaking broken Creole with complete sincerity, and thought about how far they'd all come. Mrs. Han appeared at her elbow. "You're glowing. Either you're very happy or very pregnant." Naima laughed. "Can't it be both? He knows. Found out yesterday. Got emotional." Naima smiled at the memory. "Then made me promise to let him handle everything. I told him pregnancy isn't a business deal he can negotiate." "How'd that go?" "He's already had Dr. Baek put together a care team. 3 specialists on call. A nursery designer coming next week. Security analysis for baby-proofing." She shook her head fondly. "The man approaches fatherhood like a military operation. Because he loves you, both of you." Mrs. Han squeezed her hand. "This house has become something beautiful. Because of you." It had. The mansion that had been a fortress was slowly transforming into a home. Naima's wildflowers were everywhere now. Haitian art hung beside Korean scrolls. Mrs. Han's kitchen produced fusion cuisine that made everyone happy, and most importantly, laughter echoed through halls that had only known silence. Seung-woo had kept his promise about going legitimate. All of his operations were now above board: real estate development, import-export, venture capital. The shadows of his past were being replaced with a future built on honest foundations. "My love," Seung-woo called from across the room, using the Korean endearment that still made her heart flutter. "Come here." She crossed to him, letting him pull her into his side, their natural position now, fitted together like puzzle pieces. "Your mother wants to know if we're planning a traditional Korean ceremony too," he said. "I told her we'd do whatever you want." "We're already married, so we'll get married again," he shrugged, "and again in Haiti, if that's what you want. I'll marry you in every country on earth if it makes you happy." "You're ridiculous." "You love it." "I love you." The words came so easily now, said multiple times a day, but they never lost their power. Each time Seung-woo's face softened, his gaze warmed, and Naima remembered the man who'd knocked on her door at 2:47 in the morning and changed everything. That night, after Claudette was settled in her new suite, after Mrs. Han had gone home, after the house fell quiet, Seung-woo and Naima lay in bed together, their nightly ritual of talking about everything and nothing. "Tell me about the baby," Seung-woo said, his hand spread protectively over her stomach. "What do you think they'll be like?" "Stubborn like you, kind like both of us. Hopefully with your brain and my common sense." He laughed. "That's a terrifying combination. We'll handle it. Together." "Together," he echoed, then was quiet for a moment. "Naima. Do you ever regret it? That night? Letting me help?" She turned to face him fully. "Never. Not once." "Do you? Regret the best thing that ever happened to me?" "No." He kissed her softly. "I just think sometimes about what would have happened if I'd ignored the sound, if I'd stayed in my office, if I'd chosen differently. But you didn't." "But I almost did." His voice held old fear. "I almost decided it wasn't my concern. That's what haunts me, how close I came to missing you." "But you didn't miss me." Naima took his face in her hands. You heard me. You came. You chose love when everything in your life had taught you not to. That's not luck, Shengwu. That's who you are. Who I'm becoming, maybe. Because of you. Because of us. They fell asleep like that, wrapped in each other and promises, and when morning came, they woke to a house full of love and possibility. The Korean man who heard his Haitian maid crying after midnight had done more than change the house. He'd changed his whole world. And as Naima sang softly in Creole while making breakfast, as Claudette watered the garden, as Mrs. Han prepared lunch, as Shengwu worked in his office with the door open so he could hear his wife's voice, everyone in that house knew one simple truth. Love, when it's brave enough to knock on closed doors, can heal anything, even midnight tears, especially midnight tears. The end